Okay, Christmas has come early for the Great Telco Debate this year, and I am absolutely thrilled to bits that we are joined for this final part of the day by Philip Jansen, who is the Chief Executive of BT Group. And Philip, we're delighted that you're joining us on this, the 10th Great Telco Debate. So I'm going to hand straight over now to Chris Lewis, and Chris is going to have a chat for the next 15 minutes or so with Philip. Chris.
Thank you. Did I hear a champagne cork pop at the back?
Yes.
Was that celebrating 10th or Philip celebrating you being with us? But thank you. So honestly, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So you're approaching the end of your tenure. I guess the opening question is, did you take on this job with your eyes wide open?
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
Notice the nervous giggles in the audience there. They're a very friendly lot, you know.
Yeah. The answer, Chris, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did think about it long and hard. There were parts of the job that were unappealing, public profile being one of them, and I had a long, hard think about, what was the chance of success, and the dynamics in the industry for a long time have been very challenging. So yeah, I went in with my eyes wide open, and it's proved to be pretty much what I expected, although not everything's gone to plan, but no, it's sort of pretty much what I expected, to be honest. I've loved it, by the way.
I'm sure you have. And thinking about your previous careers,
yeah.
And by the way, what is it about people from Procter & Gamble that brings them into the...
Love a bit of soap powder, don't we, and a shampoo?
CEO jobs of BT. But from your previous work in WorldPay and prior to that,
yeah.
What lessons did you bring into the industry that have been most valuable to the job?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hope I've brought a greater focus on the customer and how the customer might change over time. I don't think we do enough of that. Personally, I think we think a little bit narrow sometimes in our sector. So probably the customer and thinking through hard about where they might be going. I think also from a technology point of view and a plan point of view, I hope that at BT we've got a much clearer plan than we previously had. And the challenge in our industry, and lots of industries, by the way, is prioritization is very, very hard, and there's so much to do and so much money to be spent. So I hope that at BT that there is a crystal clear strategy with a plan that everyone understands that we just got to execute really well. And I don't think we had that for lots of reasons when I arrived.
It is. In fact, the very first debate this morning was around customer and the identity. So I think we debated that endlessly this morning about the way in which the industry views the customer. And in fact, in your seat last year was Phil Jordan, the previous group CIO from Telefonica and Sainsbury's. And he thought that customers were an abstract concept of the telco. Have you managed? How much of the needle have you shifted on that?
Not enough, a bit. I mean, and the reason I say that is it's true. It's true. Versus other industries, we don't think about the customer in the same way as many other industries do, and it's partly because we spend a lot of money, I think, and we've got high margins on paper. When you're dealing with customer and you're dealing with margins of 2-3%, it has a different competitive intensity. So I've tried really hard. I think, at BT, as Jenny's sitting from my office over there, I can see her, she knows that there's not a single meeting or conversation I ever have without mentioning the customer at the beginning. And I've tried to get that culture into the company. And I'm not saying it's been universally successful, but it's beginning to play as a bigger agenda item. And actually our net promoter score and our customer satisfaction and our customer service and our complaints are the best they've ever been.
Good.
And so I'm very pleased about that, but I think there's so much more we can do, and I think there's a long way to go on that front.
And obviously you said you came in with your eyes wide open, but
yeah.
what surprised you most when you got under the covers and started digging into it and understanding the dynamics within BT particularly?
I think the slowness of BT and the bureaucracy of BT and the committee type approach of BT is something which is very, very striking to everybody, and it was to me. And I hope I've moved that forward a bit as well. It's still a long way to go. I guess the bit that when I arrived, I concluded that we needed to get back on the front foot, and I think we were very much as an organisation feeling beaten up and on the back foot, and so I tried to change that, and I think putting the plan that we've put together now, we've got a growing company. It declined for 6 years. It's definitely growing. It's dynamic. It will grow for a few years. Definitely, I can't guarantee what happens in year 4 or 5, but it's on a growth trajectory. And as I say, all the metrics that matter to me are heading in the right direction, with one that matters to me that's not, which is the share price, right? Sure. So I have to take that on the chin and say that's on my watch. The share price has gone down, which I'm disappointed about. But I sort of expected that. And if I'm honest, I sort of expected it would be about the same. And I'd sit with someone like you and say, well, yeah, you're right. The share price is a bit disappointing. It's flat on your watch, on my watch. But the company's way stronger. It's way better. And it's got bright prospects. I can say the last bit, but I have to say the share price is down on my watch, and I'm disappointed in that.
Sure. And I think that's indicative of the industry. But I'm not a financial analyst, so share price always astonishes me. I have no idea what goes on there. But thinking about you, one of the phrases you've used throughout your tenure was this: good for BT, good for the customer, good for UK PLC. Now, isn't it just too many people to satisfy, too many mouths to feed?
Look, I think, yeah, Chris, that is the challenge of BT. That's why, by the way, the job is an absolute privilege. I've really enjoyed it. It's a really, really difficult, challenging, extremely stimulating job that provides an immense satisfaction and learning for me, right? So I've loved the job. But what is it? I think there are two things that I boil it down to is you've got to have conviction in your plan, in the strategy, because there are so many things that can blow you off course. If you're not absolutely sure of where you're going, you will end up double backing yourself and making mistakes and getting lost. And so I think if you think for my 5 years, we haven't wavered ever. The board has never wavered on the strategy and investing a fortune on making the company better and stronger, new networks, new IT, new technology, new digital interfaces everywhere across the whole company. So that is working. Now, the impact of that is it has, for one particular group of stakeholders, to quote you on mouths to feed, the shareholders, the share price has gone down. Now, I personally think that will come back. And so the job is trying to balance all the different stakeholders. And there are so many at BT. And we are such an important company. I think, probably most people in the country touch BT in some way every day, somewhere. And, it matters to the government, to the regulator, obviously to all our customers, but pension holders and shareholders and the union colleagues. So what I've tried to do is say, right, we're going over here. This is the direction of travel. No debate. And we're all in on building a better company. And it's obviously built on the best networks, on fibre and 5G and all the stuff you know about. And this is the way we're going. And I've tried to keep the boat, if you take the analogy, as balanced as possible and not have everyone run to pick the points where that stakeholder needs that, and then this, and then that. So actually, it's worked out all right, with the one exception where the share price is below where I'd like it to be. Everything's steady. And so I think it is possible, but you've got to have conviction in your plan. And if you haven't got conviction in your plan, you will end up running to different points in the boat, and the boat will start to wobble.
And that was sort of a problem for the industry over the last 10, 15 years, that we were looking too diversely. We weren't focused on doing what we do best and building things on top of that. And any one thing you'd sort of bring out as being what you're most proud of during your tenure?
I suppose the thing I'm most proud of probably is that I really believe that our prospects are much brighter than when I joined. And I think when you take on any leadership role, and you're all of you in the audience, will be responsible for people and organisations and departments, I think that's the responsibility. If you take it seriously, you have a big responsibility. I think it's an important job. I hope I've left it. I will leave it much better than I found it, and I really believe that.
So a lot of the discussion, not surprisingly, because we've got people here from all across the industry, has been about obviously better technology. We have the customer in mind all the time.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the strongest influence? Because you mentioned the regulator. You've got to work with the regulators. You've got to work with government as a stakeholder. You've got to work with customers. Is technology doing enough for you? As in, you said you've got the boat steady, but do you need to add a new sat nav on the boat or something?
Well, I see again. This goes back to having clarity of thought. So for me, BT needs to be an absolute outright leader in the networks that it operates, for all the obvious reasons. So, and it is guaranteed. There was a question mark on whether we would be the leader in fixed. So 5 years ago, we really, no one was sure. I'm guaranteeing we are going to be the market leader in fixed for decades to come. And that's, I don't know what exact outcomes will be. We're the market leader in all the definitions that matter. And I think mobile, we've got a good chance of maintaining that as well. But the point to your question is, I concluded that was essential, but not sufficient. So we do need to do things around the network because there's not enough returns available in our industry, and that's been evidenced for many, many years. So we do need to innovate with technology around our core proposition, but in a different way. And I think there are opportunities coming down that path, personally.
So the debate... So the debate before you arrived was around AI and the role of AI. Now, rumour is you're a bit of a gadget man. So
sadly.
Is this how do you see that changing the industry? How do you see it changing the industry, and how do you see it changing the BT that you're leaving in Alison Kirby's hands in the new year?
Yeah, look, I think we've missed lots of opportunities as a sector. Remember, I was in this sector 20 years ago, right? So a lot of it has changed. A lot of it hasn't changed at all. So I think we've missed opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And so that you might say, well, that's, how are we going to make sure we get hold of it this time? My personal view is that AI is an absolute game changer of the scale of the internet and mobile. I really believe that. We were just chatting before we started. And I think we're perfectly positioned to have a crack at that. So if you go back and look at some of the things that happened in previous waves, I mean, just take WhatsApp as an example. And how did no telco come up with WhatsApp, if you think about it, right? So there are new things that need to be developed that we could participate in. We don't have to own them all. And I'm very positive about it. And actually, one of the regrets I have is, again, I know you had a conversation, I was talking to one of your colleagues a minute ago about SME area. In my last role, in our last company, we aced the SME area from a similar sort of position. And somehow we've not done that at BT yet. And I don't think anyone in the industry has done it well. And I think personally, there'll be great opportunities there. And the world's changing, and therefore grasping those opportunities is always the challenge. But they're coming, again.
And one of the questions that came up earlier in the day was around relationships that an organisation like BT has with the players around it, both other telcos and working together with other telcos better to better position against the hyperscalers and positioning devices. How? I mean, I know you spend a lot of time, you CEOs spend a lot of time with each other, don't you? So
we do, yeah.
Chatting with other CEOs from, let's say, major equipment or technology companies, whether that's on the golf course, or apparently a lot of discussion goes on the golf course.
Does it, Chris?
Apparently so. Yeah. Apparently so. And but so what about relationships with other significant players in the industry? Because we touched upon hyperscalers, we touched upon the roles of the equipment guys. We mentioned Ericsson and Nokia have had an interesting week for their share price from one activity sent them in opposite directions. I mean,
I think we are. I mean, there's a lot of analogies with what I did before is in financial technology within the payment sector. And I think if I were to draw a comparison, that ecosystem worked pretty well. I think we work okay together and we get on well, but I don't think we work necessarily as good as we should. And what I mean by that is the industry does itself damage. And I say my words carefully. Sometimes there's irrational behavior in our industry which doesn't help anybody. And what I care about in the end is great things for customers, great returns for investors that fund innovation, that allows you to keep being dynamic and growing. And so that's what I've tried to set the platform for BT. And the reason I say it that way is because it's impossible to be successful without having great partnerships in this area. And some people, I think, sometimes misjudge what a partnership is. And when you need a sustainable partnership, and therefore, both partners have to win. And I think sometimes that's not always seen here. And I am encouraged, and maybe people will see me as being too optimistic. When I talk to the hyperscalers, for example, of course there are big risks and threats there. Of course there are. I think there are loads of opportunities, and the partnering dynamic, particularly with some more than others, is something we should really grab with both hands. So I think we could do much more in that area personally. But I leave that out deliberately, that the industry doesn't help itself sometimes, and I'm part of that.
Okay, so final question. You're handing over to Alison in January.
Yeah.
How would you describe the BT that you're handing over to Alison?
Yeah, when I spoke to her yesterday, I say to her that BT is stronger, better. It is growing. It's got much brighter prospects. It's got a very clear strategy and a 5-year plan that I think is very, very credible and will provide to all stakeholders what they need. The question is, can we deliver that plan on time or ahead of time? And what changes are required now to accelerate the move to the new? And the new is everything, whether it's from copper to fiber or 4G to 5G and standing down 3G, all the stuff you know about, or new IT, getting rid of old IT, getting all IP off the analog, shutting down all the old networks, and building the new IT system so we are seen as, by our customers, as a digital native company. And you know what those are. I want BT and EE, when you're using and interfacing with us as a company, to be like Amazon and Netflix. And we all know that is not easy to do.
It's a journey. And talking of journeys, what next for you?
I don't know. I'm going to have
a bit of speculation out there,
Yeah, well, I'm going to. I've worked for 35 years. Would you believe it? Without a break.
You don't.
The odd golf course. You're right, Chris. Yeah. The odd football. We used to play football. I played football with him. Would you believe it?
30 years ago.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm going to have a little bit of time off, probably 6 to 9 months, and then I'm going to think about it. But I'm still full of energy.
Oh yeah. And there might be an election by then. Do you think the political ambitions?
Given how much I love the profile of being a public CEO, that's unlikely, Chris.
Philip, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Jansen, thank you.
Good. Thank you, mate. Thank you. Great to see you.